Chris, thank you for joining us on All Out Fighting. Can I just clear something up first? Do you owe Neymar £4 million?
That is none of your business, my friend. That is between me and my good friend Nay.
Before we get on to boxing, when did you start playing poker?
Poker has been a part of my life for maybe the last 6-7 years. But I started playing high stakes poker maybe 4 years ago. Yeah.
So when you were first starting, did you ever just go into a casino in Brighton and just crack on? Or
of course, sat down with £100 and, we'd go all in and the heart was beating, it was an adrenaline rush, and now I play, for hundreds of thousands. So it's pretty insane how things have escalated and how the game has evolved and how I've evolved as a player. But yeah, it's a passion of mine.
Would you just play? You wouldn't pretend you wouldn't hide your identity. You wouldn't have a cap on when you went into these casinos. You just played as Chris Eubank Jr.
No, I mean, you when you're sitting down on a table with guys for hours on end, you can't conceal your identity. I would wear hats so that people in the other casino, around the casino, wouldn't see me and come to the table, but people knew who I was.
And how do you graduate from that to the more high stakes games?
Well, it's progression. As you become more capable as a player, you up the stakes. You start buying in for more. Then you start learning about private games and meeting new people and come and play with us and let's go there and let's go here, and the stakes just get higher and higher and higher and higher until you're in Las Vegas or in Brazil or in Dubai, and you're playing in these massive games for real money, and it's like, how did I get here? But it's a rush. It's the one thing, it's the one part of my life where I get an adrenaline rush that is somewhat close to being in a fight. There's nothing else in my life that I do which gives me that heart pump, Maybe that's why I like it so much.
So you're in Vegas, you want to play. How do the games come about? Is it WhatsApp, or is it some sort of?
I mean, I now I play in games which are scheduled. I have, I'm part of groups, and I have very close friends who host games and invite me. The first time I was ever introduced to high stakes poker, I was actually playing at the an Aria casino on the Strip, and I was paying for like $300-400. Sat down, played for a couple of hours, and then I got up and left, went to walk over to the Cosmopolitan to go to a club over there, and I bumped into a man named Phil Hellmuth. And I was watching him play on YouTube the week before. So I was like, oh, that's Phil. That's Phil Hellmuth. He's one of the best poker players in the world in terms of tournaments and bracelets that he's won. So I saw him. I didn't say anything to him at first because I'm not really the type to approach people like that, but went to the bathroom, came back, and he's still there. So I was like, you know what? I'll just say what's up, just tell him I've watched him play and, whatever. So I, spoke to him, introduced myself, and he said, "Oh man, that's cool. I'm glad you have been learning from some of the stuff that I do. What do you do?" I said, "I'm a boxer." He said, "Wow, I love boxing. What's your record? When's your next fight?" I started asking him these questions. Then he said, "I'm about to go and play with Steve Aoki and a bunch of other guys in this private game. Do you want to join?" And I was like, wow, this is the best poker player in the world. Steve Aoki, the biggest DJ in the world. He's inviting me. I can't say no. How much is the buy-in? He was like, "Oh, it's only 10,000. It's nothing. It's small." I was like, I had $400 in my pocket. I was like, Yeah, okay, let's go. So I walk with him. I walk into the room. The room is called, the area is called the Ivy Room. It's like a private room where people host games. And I sat down, and in my head the whole time I'm thinking, where am I? I have the 10,000 in my bank account, but I can't. How am I going to withdraw the money? I've got to go. I was just all these things going on in my mind. And one of Phil's friends says, "Do you have chips?" I said, "Nah, not on me right now." He said, "All right, just pay me back when you're done." He threw me $10,000 in chips, just like that. Didn't even know the guy. I was like, "Holy shit! This is And I'm looking around, and $10,000 was the minimum buy-in, but most of these guys had 50, 60, 70,000 there. Because I had walked in with Phil Hellmuth, who is a very respected and well-known poker player, that kind of made them feel safe. Like, oh, well, if he's with Phil, then it's fine. We can give him the money and he'll pay us back. So that was the first time I was ever introduced to high-stakes poker. I ended up winning, I think, $8,000, $9,000. Gave the guy back his 10,000. And from that day on, I was hooked. From that day on, I was always in and out of these big games,
What's the most money that's ever been on the table?
Maybe $1.5 million, $2 million.
And you've, I believe, won and lost hundreds of thousands, or around about 100,000.
A lot. I wish it was that number. Oh, I've won and lost houses, for sure.
What was worse, losing 100,000 at poker or paying 100,000 fine for smashing an egg into Conor Benn?
Well, I haven't paid that fine yet, and we are going to appeal because I think that's an absolute disgrace of a number that they're trying to charge me. I think it's very unfair compared to what others have been fined for, a lot worse acts, in my opinion. But yeah, the fine definitely is worse, because in poker you can lose 100,000 and you can win it right back in the next hand. This fine is, once I pay it, it's gone forever, so we'll see what happens.
Do you think there's more deception in poker or boxing?
It's a great question. It's probably very close. In terms of the business aspect of boxing, promoters and managers and agents and, all these people who are doing all these underhanded deals, scraping money off the top of fighters' purses, roping fighters into terrible contracts. These things have been happening for years, and they will continue to happen. So in terms of the business side, there's, deception is rife in the sport of boxing. It really is. In poker, the deception is it's part of the game. You've got to bluff. Sometimes you've got to go all in with nothing to try and deceive your opponent into folding, but it's a part of the game. The deception in boxing is not part of the game, and it should be erased. It should not be allowed, but it's the Wild Wild West in many cases, unfortunately.
At what point did you decide to take an egg to the press conference?
2.5 years ago, when I had Conor Benn giving the excuse that contaminated eggs were the reason he failed his drugs tests.
So you always knew that there would be a chance to...
I always knew the next time I had my opportunity, I was going to plant one on the side of his face.
And was it simply because of that excuse, or was there some sort of...
Why else would I hit him with an egg? And that egg was a symbol. It was an egg of justice to let everybody know, if you cheat, you're going to get embarrassed. You're going to get made an example of.
And I assume it all went to plan. We saw the final result, but there were no hiccups along the way with broken eggs or anything like that.
One of the eggs in my back pocket cracked, unfortunately, but everything else was concealed beautifully by the high quality leather of my Louis Vuitton jacket.
I think the next day you were due to have a face-off, which I believe you didn't go to. Why was that?
No, I don't think that's correct. There was no face-off the next day.
I thought it was for DAZN. There was a picture of Conor sitting on his own in the way.
There was supposed to be a program shot, so me and him would sit across to the table from each other and talk to each other like we did before the first fight. But they then decided that that was too dangerous because of what happened the day before, so they were going to do separate interviews and kind of cut it up and edit it as if we were together. And I said, that's pathetic. I'm not doing that.
You plenty to say about Eddie Hearn, or you tried to limit his involvement in the press conferences. What's you signed with him, I think 10 years ago. What's the issue with Eddie?
Eddie is the enemy. Eddie is a greedy promoter, who I have no time for. He has constantly disrespected me over the years, publicly in interviews. He's tried blocking me in certain fights behind the scenes. He is not an ally, and therefore he has no right, in my opinion, to ever speak at any of my press conferences or whenever I'm around, period.
Do you feel in your heart that Conor Benn cheated in 2022?
Absolutely. No question.
Do you feel like you should have seen nobody outside of those who investigated knows why he believes it was in his system? Do you feel like you should be told? Should you be able to see those documents that say this is why he was cleared?
Do I feel like I should be told? Do I feel like I should see? I would like to, of course, but that's not how the world works. What you feel should and shouldn't happen, usually, it doesn't work out that way. All I know is, regardless of how those illegal drugs were in his system, they were in there, which means that he is a cheat. He will forever be a cheat. There will be people, including myself, that will never forgive him, especially when he is doing everything in his power to try and deny the fact that he cheated. Us as athletes, it's our responsibility. It's our only job to make sure we monitor everything that's going into our bodies, into our systems, into our food and drink. If you are irresponsible enough to let something slip through the cracks, then you're a cheat. Simple as that.
I'm interested, you've mentioned Nick Blackwell the other day. You've been in a situation where you know better than anyone what can happen in a ring. And yet, you were, I believe, and are willing to fight Conor Benn, given what's happened. Is there any way that you are you're giving him a chance, if you like, to earn millions and millions of pounds from this fight, despite what happened 2 years ago, despite how you feel about him and you feel about what you believe he did?
At the end of the day, if he's not going to fight me, he's going to fight somebody else. He will, fighters get popped, and all the time they serve their ban, they serve their fine, and then they get back in the ring. That's the disgusting and unfortunate landscape of boxing. You can cheat, and eventually you can get back into the ring. So knowing that, I'm not going to deny the fans the fight that they've all been asking to see. I'm not going to deny myself the opportunity to make history financially and, in the sense of this is a fight that has never happened in the history of boxing. Nothing's ever happened like this before, and it never will happen. It will never happen again. I want to be a part of something like that. Regardless of the fact that I think he's a cheat, I still want to be able to say that I was in a fight that can never ever be replicated in the history of boxing. That excites me. So that's why I'm taking the fight.
I believe you spoke to your dad the other day. Was that the first time in a while?
Yes, it was.
Was it? I believe it was at Harlem's fight. Was it prearranged? Did you just bump into him?
It wasn't prearranged, but, I decided to show up and just, say hello.
How long had it been since you'd spoken to him?
I don't know, a real conversation in person, years.
I think he said that you no longer look naive when he saw you the other day. Experience has changed you. Does that feel accurate?
That's his, that's his analysis. But the truth is that I was never naive. I always knew the things that were going on. I always knew the pitfalls and the dangers, but I entrusted him to sort everything out. And it got to a stage where I decided that I can't trust anybody but myself with such important decisions in my life and in my career.
Did that conversation feel like a stepping stone to better, bigger things?
I think so. It definitely was, it definitely started off good. There were still some bumpy, rocky issues that came up. But I'm still hopeful that, yes, that encounter we were able to build on that.
Was one of those issues this fight with Conor Benn?
Yeah.
Do you understand his opposition to it?
No.
How does he explain his opposition to it?
Again, it's hard to really explain because, he'll say things and then he'll say other things, and it's, it is confusing. His thing is, weight classes and, safety in terms of my weight cutting and rehydration. But we are fighters. I'm 35 years old. I'm not a kid anymore. You can't be worried or fearful for my safety. If as a man I feel like I can do something, if I can achieve something, you have to be happy with that, support that, and, not go against it because you believe it's not right or it's not okay or it's against the rules. The fight is going to happen. He's still saying things like the fight won't happen. And I can't even say it's crazy of him to say that because he said it the last time and the fight didn't happen. So even though it still is crazy for me to hear him say that, I've got to just let him say it. But the fight will happen and he should be there.
Do you think he will be?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. All I can do is kind of make moves and do certain things to try and help get him there. But as of right now, I couldn't tell you.
What does it mean to be a Eubank?
It means that you are somebody that the boxing community looks to for, for everything, really, especially in Britain. There aren't too many other names more synonymous with boxing than Eubank in Britain. So, you're on a pedestal. There's so much pressure. Every time you box, every time you do anything, all eyes are on you. That's how it's been my entire career. Luckily for me, I'm the type of man that performs and thrives under pressure. A lot of people don't. I do.
When did you realize that you were more, or your name is more than just, an ordinary name, if you like? When did it feel like you get a sense of who you were and maybe who your family was?
When you're a kid and you're seeing people sprint up to your father and beg for autographs and pictures and handshakes, eventually you realize, you look around at the other dads and you realize, okay, this is not a normal man. We are not normal people.
Did you ask him why people were doing that and why, what was special about him?
Yeah.
What did he say?
I can't remember the exact wording as a kid, but he would have explained that he is a boxer, he is a fighter, he is somebody in the public eye that many people know and watch on TV. And that's why he's, got all of this attention. That's why at 13 years old, I'm on Channel 5 at home with the Eubanks. One of the first kind of reality TV shows, that was all built off of what he was and what he did.
And when did you become aware of his fights with Nigel Benn?
That must have been maybe like 9 or 10. I went to a sleepover and went to my friend's VHS collection to pick a film to watch before we went to sleep, going through all of them, and then I saw my dad and Nigel Benn on the front cover of one of these VHS tapes. I popped it in and watched it. Holy shit, this is why my old man gets all this attention. This is what he does.
Do you remember when you first met Conor?
Maybe I met him down at my gym in Brighton and Hove, amateur boxing club, years and years ago. He came down with Nigel, I think. I think we took a picture together.
From the outside, and obviously everything that's gone on over the last few years, put that aside if we can, you two share something. Not only are you fighters, not only were your dads fighters, but they fought in two of the biggest fights this country's ever seen. Really, you should be quite close, no?
Close in terms of what?
Well, if not friends, at least, you have shared experiences that would make you potentially friends.
If we weren't both fighters, absolutely. I could see myself being friends with him in a different life. But when you both know that there is even the smallest possibility that at some point we may fight, a friendship could never be formed. And even though, when I met him in that gym 10, 12 years ago, I don't know how many years ago it was, I was obviously cool with him. We shook hands, we talked, we spoke, we would have spoken. But I can't be friends with him because just in case. Because you always get the talks from when I first turned pro, from when I first started, imagine if Eubank Jr. fought Conor Benn, Nigel Benn's son. That'll never happen. But there was always that talk. So when you hear that, you can't really become friends with somebody.
Because it did, you're right, there was talk very early on, but it never, at the start, I think, certainly when Conor turned pro, it felt like it would have to be forced. for the fight to happen, or did you?
He had too much to do and too much to prove. But he's done it. He's an undefeated fighter now. He has a fan base, a big fan base in boxing. So now the fight makes sense. Now the fight is being demanded by the public.
When did you feel like, yeah, actually this probably will happen?
I don't know. Maybe 3 years ago, when the conversations that are actually being staged at the O2 started to come about.
I wonder, you play poker, you're a fighter, you say you trust absolutely nobody else with big decisions. Are you happier on your own? Do you feel, have you made yourself, are you in solitude, would you say?
Am I happier on my own? I'm happy to be in a position to where if I fail because of something that I did. And in the same breath, if I win, if I succeed because of what I did, decisions I made, the hard work that I put in. There were points in my life where things went wrong and I failed because of decisions of other people, whether it was my father or whoever else. And that is really hard to live with, because it's my life. I can live with my life knowing that, all right, yeah, I messed up, so I've got to pay the price. But I can't live with, they made the wrong decision and now I'm paying for it. So I'm not going to say I'm lonely. I have very close people around me who I trust and who help me and who I love. But the final decisions are mine now, and they will be for the rest of my life. They weren't at the stages of my career where my old man was next to me. The final decisions were his.
Do you have enough time left in boxing to make sure that you can right any wrongs that did to your career? As in, have you got enough time to achieve what you want to achieve?
Absolutely. I'm 35 years old, and according to Conor Benn, I'm washed up and finished, but there is a lot that I still have left in the tank, regardless of what people may think. And that, coupled with the opportunities that Riyadh season, Saudi, Turkey Al Sheikh are the opportunities that these outfits are giving to fighters now. Absolutely, I've got plenty of time to continue on my own path,